Hello everyone, welcome to today's class. This is a class for June 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So let's get started. First of all, we're going to go over today's activities. The first thing that we're going to do, as you already know, is we're going to check homework with teacher Rafa. Remember, it's workbook page 106, so if you haven't done it, make sure you finish it before we check it together, okay? Good. Now, the second thing that we're going to do is the FCE, which is reading part 3, okay? We're going to work on practice test 5, and it's going to be vocabulary practice to guide you guys into to get started working on part 3. Now, remember that this is with teacher Laurita, okay? The next thing that we're going to do, today we're going to be working on our student book. We're going to be working on speaking. We're going to go over some useful vocabulary, and we're also going to be working on writing. Today we're going to do a writing, which I know you will love, okay? It's a letter of application, okay? Um, we're going to be talking about volunteers as well. That's something nice, okay? In moments of crisis like the one we're going through right now. And finally, we're going to assign some homework, okay? You'll see in a minute. So guys, let's get started now with teacher Rob.
Hello guys, again here with you to help you check your homework. In this case, we have a very special class because we are gonna talk about a TED Talk. Yeah, one of your favorite things in the world. So, let's start. For number 1, it says, listen to an extraction from Bencis Manson's TED Talk. Decide whether the intonation on the bold words is rising or falling. Choose the correct answer. So, once a week, we would set up our scanning equipment in the temporary photo libraries that had been set up where people were reclaiming their photos. For number 2, guys, it would be falling. The older ladies, rising, sometimes hadn't seen a scanner before. 4. It would be falling, but within 10 minutes of them finding their lost photo. 5. It's rising. They could give it to us, have it scanned. 6. It's rising again. Upload it to a cloud server. 7. It's rising again. It will be downloaded by engaging. Guys, I don't know if you have heard this word before, but engaging, it's a Japanese word and its meaning it's a stranger. Engaging, it means somebody that it's not from the town, it's not from the city, it's a complete stranger for the people that lives in there. So, let's keep going. Number 8 would be rising again. A stranger somewhere on the other side of the globe. 9, it's rising again, and it started being fixed. 10, it's falling. For exercise number 2, listen to the extracts from the TED Talk. Choose the correct answers. What was Manson's profession? She is a photo retoucher. 2. What happened in Ofunato? It had been devastated by the wave. 3. What happened at Onsen? The volunteers collected the photos they had found. 4. What's a gaijin? Well, guys, I also told you the answer for this one. A gaijin is a stranger. 5. Why does she compare clean photos to doing to a tattoo? Because she said that both are permanent. 6. Which is not a reason Mason gives to explain the importance of photographs. Because she said that they are important legal documents. 7. What does Manson say she learned from the project? She said that she learned how similar people are in all parts of the world. For the exercise number 3, it says, put the statements about the photo retouching process in order. So, guys, as we saw, she talked about the retouching process, and here we have to put it in order. So, for number 1, it would be letter E. As the volunteers cleaned the debris from the giant wave, they found a photo albums that people had lost when they fled their homes. Number 2. It will be letter B. The volunteers realized that these photos must contain important memories for their owners, so they brought the photos to the onsen where Manson was collecting them. 3. Very carefully the team cleaned the photos. 4. People from the town came to the photo libraries to identify and reclaim their photos. 5. Once the townspeople had reclaimed their photos, they scanned the photos and sent them to photo retouchers around the world. 6. The photo retouchers worked very carefully on the photos, sometimes for weeks or months, to make sure that the photographs were restored to their original state. And the last one would be, once the restoration was complete, the photos were returned to their families. And for the last exercise, guys, it says, match the words with the sentences that show their meaning. 1. Sirens. 2. Give it a go. 3. Struck a chord. 4. Glove. 5. On the ground. 6. Unfolded. For number 1 would be letter D, that it says, the loud warning noise from the ambulance woke the baby. 2. It will be C. Sharon was afraid the problem would be too complex, but she decided to try. 3. Would be letter F. It says, when she looked at the photographs of the other people's families, she felt an emotional connection to those people. 4. Would be letter E. People from all over the world went to Japan to help out after the tsunami. 5. It will be letter B. The police were at the location of the problems within 20 minutes. And the last one, and it's letter A. It says, I'll never forget the events that developed that day. So, this is all for the class, guys. I hope you're great. So, I expect to see you soon, and I really hope you're making your homework. Goodbye, guys.
Hey guys. Okay, so today we're going to be working on practice test number 5, reading part 3. So get ready to look at our vocabulary activities for today. Okay guys, so the first thing we're going to do is match the nouns with the pictures. So first of all, repeat after me. Repeat after me, proportion, necessity, small change, savings, purse, moto, budget, and vending machine. So write the correct number in each of the pink circles for the best picture. Okay guys, now you have to write the correct noun to fill in the crossword. We have the different definitions. Remember that across we have number 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7, and 9, and down we have 1, 4, and 8. So let's look at the crossword that we have here. For number 1, a situation, which is down, is circumstance. Just like this, please fill in the rest. Okay guys, so as part of this reading part 3, we have a series of phrasal verbs that are included within the reading. So let's just go over what is a phrasal verb. So remember that it consists of a verb and a particle, which can either be a preposition or an adverb. The particle is the most important part, and you have to pay special attention to it because it can fully change the meaning of the phrasal verb. We have examples. Number 1 is look up, which is to consult a reference book. Look up a word in a dictionary, for example. Look forward, which means to anticipate with pleasure, or to really anticipate something, and it's look forward to meeting someone, for example. Okay guys, for this part of the activity, we have matched the phrasal verbs to their definitions. So repeat after me. Stick to, build up, mount up, take notice of. We have 3 possible definitions: become larger, pay attention to, and keep to a decision. Why do we only have 3 definitions and 4 phrasal verbs? Because 2 of the phrasal verbs mean the same thing. So please match the correct ones with their definitions. Okay guys, now let's practice using these 4 phrasal verbs that we just saw. So as it says here, it's fill in the blanks with the correct phrasal verb. We have Sophie must blank her diet if she wants to lose weight. She exercises daily to blank her strength. Try to blank your surroundings while you travel through Africa. Her mom tried to blank her confidence blank. Did anyone blank where we parked the car? Everyone will blank the plan that we agreed on. Okay, guys, now besides from new phrasal verbs that are part of reading part 3, we also have 2 new verbs that are used. So let's look at their definitions. First of all, we have tempt, which means try to persuade. As we can see in this example, it says he was tempted to eat chocolate but decided to resist and ate an apple instead. And we also have the verb cover. Cover has several different meanings. One of these is to put or spread something over something else, or to lie on the surface of something. For example, cover the meat with a slice of cheese and tomato in the case of a hamburger. Cover also means to deal with or direct attention to something. For example, this leaflet or this pamphlet covers what we talked about in more detail. Okay, then we have to report the news about a particular important event. And it's in this example we have she's covering the presidential election for BBC News. And also to afford to pay for. And in this case it says I need 200 pesos to cover the cost of the plane ticket. For the purpose of this reading part 3, the definition for cover that we're going to be using is the last one, afford to pay for. Okay guys, so in this text you're going to use the correct form of the verb to fill in the blanks. We have the verbs that we saw for reading part 3 and some additional verbs as well. They're in their simple or their infinitive form, and what you have to do is adapt them to the correct form. So let's read together. I was so blank to cheat on my math exam that I even blank a cheat sheet to do it. But then I realized that if I blank, I would fail and wouldn't be able to blank the cost for having to resit the exam without using up all my savings. I blank for 6 months to buy a new bike and blank to purchase many things, but I hadn't. I almost blank a baseball bat last month because I really liked it, but I blank. So I basically blank not to cheat. I had too much to lose. Okay guys, now we're going to look at the following phrases and expressions that are also part of reading part 3. So please repeat after me. I could kick myself. Save for a rainy day. Down the drain. Put into perspective. Keep track of. For the sake of. Now, the second column in green are the definitions for these phrases and expressions. And the third column are pictures that illustrate these expressions. So they all have a picture except for one. There's one extra expression that doesn't have a picture. So let's look at the first one. I could kick myself. The correct definition is I realize I did something wrong and wish I had avoided it. And this is the correct picture. So please fill in the rest. Alright, now with those expressions that we just saw, which you can see are part of the word bank on your right, you have to fill in the blank spaces using the following phrases or expressions. And as you can see, some of them are going to be used more than once because we have a total of 10 sentences. So for number 1, we have bank statements can help you keep track of how much money you're spending. So please fill in the rest, guys, and we will check next class. Okay, guys, so now we're going to read part 3, and let's begin. Please follow the reading with me. Money matters. We asked 5 teenagers for their advice on managing money. A. Megan. When I was younger, I spent all the money I got. As soon as I had earned it, it was gone again. After a couple of years, I began wondering why I didn't have any savings. Things had to change. It was then that I opened a bank account and made up my mind that I would save 20% of my wages every time I got paid. It wasn't actually that much, but it soon began to build up. It's such a good feeling knowing that I have money in the bank, and I would never go back to my old ways now. Even saving just a tiny amount each month can make quite a difference. So my advice would be for everyone to open an account and start saving. I find that I don't actually miss the money I put in the bank, but it makes a big difference in the end. B. Laura. My money goes on stupid things, like a coffee here or a sandwich there, and even though that only means 2 or 3 pounds a time, it soon mounts up. The thing is that you never really take much notice of the small change that you have. I find that if I have change in my purse, it's soon gone. I can never remember where or what on. One day I made a list of all the things I'd bought that week. Small things like magazines or snacks, and it really surprised me. I'd spent 30 pounds on, well, nothing really. If I could give anyone advice, I would tell them to always ask themselves, do I really need this? You'll be surprised at how many times the answer is no. I could kick myself because I know I could have had a new mobile phone or new clothes for that money instead of just throwing it down the drain. What a waste. C. Jamie. My money motto is be strict and know what you're spending. I keep a budget so that I know exactly how much money I can spend on clothes, how much I'm going out with my friends, and how much I need to save. I can't stand not knowing where my money's going, especially since I work so hard for it. I mean, I only work at the weekends and I don't really make a lot of money, but I find it goes a lot further if I keep track of it. Budgeting is just the best way to manage your money and helps you see what you need to spend your money on before deciding what you want to spend it on. For me, it means that I have money goals. If I tell myself I'll save 5 pounds every week, then I definitely will. It's as simple as that. D. Olivia. I always got pocket money from my parents, which was great. It meant that when I wanted a new jacket or to go to the cinema, I knew that I had enough to cover it. The problem is that I never really learned the value of money. I mean, my parents gave me money, and I spent it. There was never any question of saving it or being careful, but I knew that I'd get more the following week. Well, that was a mistake. When my dad lost his job, my pocket money stopped. Of course, I was used to a lifestyle where I could have anything I wanted. Within reason, that is. Without my pocket money, I began to see how much I'd taken money for granted, and worse still, how much I had actually spent over the years. I soon found a part-time job and started earning my own money. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough. Not only did I become more responsible about money and how I spent it, but I felt good that I was working for it and not just relying on my parents. My advice to anyone is not to expect money to always be there and make sure you save enough for a rainy day. E. Charlie. If I've learned anything about money, it's this. It's not so easy to make, but it's really easy to spend. I could spend money 10 times quicker than I earn it, but I don't because I always say to myself, remember how difficult it was to earn this. That really stops me when I get the urge to spend, which I frequently do. And I know that I'm much more careful with money because of it. There are so many ways to spend money, and even just walking to school can be dangerous. I mean, you pass the corner shops where you might buy a magazine or some sweets. Then there are vending machines in school, so that could be another couple of pounds gone on chocolate and crisps. And before you know it, you've worked all weekend for the sake of a rubbish magazine and a lot of junk food. I know plenty of people who spend money this way, and I think it's just crazy. I know everyone likes to spend their money in the way that suits them, but there's no way I would throw it away like that. My advice is to remember how hard money is to come by, and you'll soon be more careful about how you spend it.
Okay guys, so let's begin working on our student book. Please open it on page 114. Now that we're there, let's look at the image at the very bottom. As we can see, that looks like probably a duck that is being cleaned, right? With someone's help. We can see someone's hands that is cleaning this duck, right? So let's read here. It says, after an oil spill, people volunteer to help with a cleanup operation, which can involve helping wildlife. Okay, so imagine oil has been spilled on a river, on the ocean. There will have to be volunteers to help animals to get cleaned, right? So they won't die because of that. So today we're going to be talking about volunteering. Okay, now on exercise number 1, it says to work in pairs and to look at these jobs. Discuss how they might be useful in a crisis or a disaster. How might they generally be good for society? So first of all, let's go in order. We're going to do it together. The first one we have is an actor. Okay, so how do you think an actor can be useful in a crisis or a disaster? In this case, we can talk about coronavirus, right? Because this is a crisis that we're going through just now, right? So what can an actor do to help or to be useful in a crisis? Maybe they can raise money, right? They can ask people to raise money. They can donate their own money, and that way they can help other people, right? What about a banker? How do you think a banker can be useful in a crisis? Maybe by being in charge of all that money and probably being there just to collect all that money and to see how much is going to be able to be donated to some charities or things like that, right? What about a chemistry teacher? What about a chemistry teacher? Do you think a chemistry teacher is important? Do you think they're useful to society? They might, right? Because probably they, or not specifically in the moment of a crisis, but before, right? Because they were the ones that taught all the new chemists on how to do things, right? And probably they're finding out also a cure, a vaccine for certain types of diseases, right? What about a computer programmer? What do you think about a computer programmer? Do you think they're useful? Probably they are, right? Because they keep track of all the records. They're averaging, or they're recording all of what is, all the information that is needed, right? All the assistance, how the virus is being spread, all those things, right? Now, what about a photo retoucher? Well, probably this would be after a disaster, right? Imagine like in a flood, people lose their photos, and if you want your photo to be retouched or for it to be retouched, maybe you can ask them, right? So you won't lose memories of someone special, of your loved ones that have passed away, like that, right? Now, what about a plastic surgeon? I would say they're good for society in fires, when people get burned, when people have accidents and they get their face destroyed. Maybe a plastic surgeon can remodel, restructure their face, and that would benefit them, like in personal matters, right? What about a politician? A politician. Maybe, well, they're the ones that take the decisions, they're the ones that are in charge, so they have to be useful, right? They have to be the ones to set an example as well, right? And finally, one of the most important ones, a street cleaner. So how do you think a street cleaner is useful after a disaster? I think a street cleaner is one of the most useful, right? Because there has been a lot of imagine like in a hurricane, in a tornado, the people who clean the streets are the ones that do the best for the city. They have it clean again, right? But we also have to help them. Okay, so guys, today we're going to be talking about that, about volunteers. Maybe what I told you right now, you can have something different, you can have different ideas. It's totally valid. Just make sure you also have something on you, not just listen to me. Okay, good. Now, in exercise number 2, it says to work in pairs. Which job in activity 1 do you think each sentence describes? And do you agree? So, let's do this together, okay? Number 1 says, they are often criticized for creating fake images, but they can also help restore things that are precious to people. So, of course, that would be the photo retoucher, right? What about number 2? Remember, we're using the ones that we just went over. Number 2, some people say they're only motivated by greed and self-interest, but they generate jobs and business couldn't work without them. So, who do you think we're talking about? Maybe a banker, right? They have to be the ones in charge of collecting all the money. Number 3, without them, would be surrendered by piles of trash and dirt. That's an easy one. Of course, that would be the street cleaner, right? Even outside San Miguelito, there's always someone from the government that is cleaning the park, right? San Miguelito's garden. What about number 4? They can bring a huge amount of joy to millions of people. That would be an actor, right? Maybe we can get distracted, maybe by watching Netflix, by watching movies. Maybe. I don't want to say that we're just watching movies all the time, right? Number 5, they can transform the lives of people who have been injured. So that would be a plastic surgeon, right? Like I told you. Number 6, they're fundamental to the technological world. That would be a computer programmer. Number 7, yes, they can corrupt and lie, but they can also be a huge force for good. So we're talking about a politician. And number 8, they don't just have knowledge, they have the ability to pass it on. So we're talking about who? A chemistry teacher, right? What I told you, maybe at that moment, whoever has a chemistry teacher is not going to be able to do much, maybe, but who already learned from a chemistry teacher will be able to do many things, right? To help. Excellent, guys. So today we're talking about volunteers and what we can do when there's a disaster or a crisis in our city, in our town. Okay, so moving on to exercise number 3, it says to listen to a student and explain a job she thinks is important for society, and then answer the question. So we have 2 questions. Number 1 says, what job is she talking about? And number 2, what reasons does she give? Okay, so let's listen, and once we finish listening, try to answer these questions and we'll discuss together. Okay, let's go.
Now, I realize that my choice may not be the most popular. In fact, over recent years, increasing public outrage has been directed at many of the top professionals in this line of work. There's a perception that salaries in this field are out of control, and that greed and self-interest are king, and they offer little for society, let alone a crisis. But think about it for a moment. First, people who've made their millions on the field will have plenty to donate to people in a crisis. Second, imagine if they actually went out and helped. What a great message that would send. These people are role models and would be a real force for good in showing young people values such as hard work, getting your hands dirty, showing respect, and that there is more to life than sports. And of course, most of them are really strong and fit. Just the kind of people you might need to clear debris and piles of trash. Finally, think about how they might also lift the spirits of people who have suffered a lot. They bring joy to millions, and I'm sure fans would be amazed to meet them or even actually watch them play. They would be great in a crisis.
Okay, now that we've listened to it, let's go ahead and check. So, what job is the girl talking about? She's talking about a professional athlete, right? Maybe a soccer player, a basketball player, right? And number 2, what reasons does she give mentioning that this job is important for society? She mentions quite a bit, huh? So she mentions that soccer players make a lot of money, are models for people, they're strong, and can live the spirits of people affected by a disaster. And this happens a lot, right? Maybe we're suffering from depression, we're depressed, we can feel sad, but if we watch someone in a movie, if we watch a soccer match, maybe that can raise our spirits a bit. Okay? Maybe. Hopefully that's true, guys. We have to find some type of motivation uh, in this crisis that we're facing right now. So if you feel happy watching a concert, if you feel happy watching a movie, a soccer match, perfect. That's perfect. The important thing is that your spirit is high. You have a high spirit. Now, working on exercise number 4, it says to work in pairs and answer the questions. It says, what did the student mention before listing positive aspects of the job and why? And 2, which aspects of her argument do you agree with and disagree with, and explain why? So what does she mention? She mentions something about what? Think about it. Okay, so what she mentions before the positive aspects is that these people are believed to get overpaid, right? That they get a lot of money. And maybe what she's trying to do is to defend her point of view, to defend that athletes should get paid well because they entertain people, right? Now, number 2 says, which aspects of her argument do you agree with and disagree with, and explain why? Well, I'm not a big soccer fan, so I would disagree a little. I understand that people get entertained and their spirits get elevated or get high when they're having fun watching a soccer match, but I think there's other things that people can do as well, and not necessarily that right. But it just depends on the way you see things, and there's people that would love this, right? So it's totally fine. Okay, so moving on, guys, on exercise number 5, this is an exercise that I would like for you to do in your notebooks, okay? And it says work in groups and discuss which person or job in activity 1 is best suited to help in a crisis, and follow these steps. So remember, you're using the people on activity 1. You're just going to choose one, okay? You're just going to choose one. And in your notebooks, what I want you to do is to give, well, it says, let's go over the rules. And it says, give each person in the group a job to defend, spend some time in preparing what you will say, use a useful language box, takes turns presenting your arguments, discuss who is the best person to help in the crisis, and vote to choose the best person for the job. So what I want you to do is just to choose one, okay? Think about which of these jobs you think is the best or the best suited to help in a crisis, okay? And write 2-3 sentences, okay? So let's look at the useful language box. It says countering possible opposition. So it says, now I know what you might be thinking. So let's say a teacher. Let's talk about a teacher. It says, now I know what you might be thinking, that but as if we rethink a little, a teacher is one of the best suited jobs to help in a crisis because they help to calm children down. I realize there's a perception that teachers are not doing much, but they're also in charge of checking on how students are doing. I'm obviously not denying that teachers are not at schools right now, but teachers are also doing their best from their homes and also are paying attention to their students. Okay, that's what I would say. Now, listing. If you want to make a list of the positive qualities, you can say to begin with, consider the fact that, on top of that, let's not forget that. And finally, it's important to note that, okay? So guys, in your notebooks, just 2 sentences, 2 or 3 sentences on which job do you think is the best suited to help in a career, okay? That's it. If you need to, you can pause the video and and once you finish, you can check again, okay? Continue. Okay, So we're getting to the best part, which is a writing, okay? A letter of application. Guys, today we're going to be talking about the difference, and I've told you, I think, that here in Mexico, when we want to apply for a job, we send our curriculum. But in other places, a letter of application is also something that you have to submit, okay? And that is a letter in which you tell the person why you want a job, okay? So let's go ahead and read. It says, read the advertisement and discuss the questions. It says, spend your winter vacation this year doing something different. We're looking for volunteers between the ages of 16 and 21 to rebuild a school in Belize that was destroyed in a hurricane last year. You will learn traditional building methods to provide a great space where learning can take place. For more details, write and tell us who you are and what you would bring to the project. Nice, that sounds like a really nice idea, right? Plus you will learn a lot. So let's see, it says, what do you think daily life for volunteers on this project would involve? So what do you think? Maybe hard work, right? Maybe even cleaning up. Before you start, we have to clean everything up, right? What problems might they face? I would consider a big problem if I found a body in any of the debris or any place there, because they're cleaning up after a hurricane. We don't know what's left there. Number 3, what kind of skills do you think would be required to do this work? So probably you would be able to build, to follow instructions, because you're not going to be the boss there. You have to follow someone's instructions. You have to have essential materials of building, right? How do you think any volunteers who take part might benefit? Well, they're going to learn a lot, right? They're going to learn, it says traditional building methods. So that would be really cool. And plus, imagine like all the benefits, personal benefits. Maybe you can make some friends. Maybe you can also feel proud that you're helping your society in any form. And number 5, would you be interested in doing something like this, and why? So if someone asked you if you wanted to help, would you help them? Maybe let's think about San Luis Potosí. If a place like Caja del Agua or an iconic place was destroyed, and maybe not iconic, maybe a school, your school, what do you think? Do you think they, if we ask you to help us clean it up, would you do it? I bet you do, right? Because I know you guys are really willing to help. And plus, if it's something that you are benefited from, it will make things way better, right? So that's cool. Okay, so moving on to exercise number 7, it says structuring an application, okay? So let's go over the structure, okay? So it says, if you were writing in response to an advertisement, decide how you would order each of these features. Compare your ideas with a partner. So let's go ahead and see. Refer to the ad you saw. Is that the first thing we have to do? Maybe, right? List the skills and abilities you have. Describe who you are and where you are from. Outline your plans for the future and explain what you're writing. So maybe the first one would be E. I would say the first one E or A, 1 and 2. Maybe C would be the third one. B, the fourth one, and D, the last one. But it just depends on your criteria. Okay, what do we have to do first? So in order to have that, let's go to page 153 to the example of a letter of application. Okay, so let's go ahead and read it first, and then we'll come and explain all of it. Okay, so first of all, it says, dear sir or madam. Remember, it's page 153. Dear sir or madam, I'm writing in response to your advertisement looking for volunteers to rebuild a school in Belize. I would be very grateful if you could send me more information about this opportunity and details on how to apply. My name is Melanie Glake, and I'm 17 years old. I am from Aachen in Germany. I am currently in my last year of high school and will be taking my final exams next spring. I hope to then go on to study Spanish and Latin American studies in college. In terms of what I will bring to the project, I already have a good level of both Spanish and English, and having traveled widely. I am used to being around people from other cultures. I'm also prepared to get my hands dirty and help out in any way I can. I do a lot of sports and would say I have good levels of fitness, so I feel confident that I would be able to cope with the manual labor. In addition, I have some experience in both gardening and farming because my grandparents live on a farm and I usually spend the summers helping out there. I'm also an excellent team player and I like to think I possess good social skills. I hope you feel I'm suitable for the post and look forward to hearing from you soon. Yours sincerely, Melanie Blake. Okay, so first of all, guys, the first thing we have to do is, as you can see at the very top, it says to start a letter of application by referring to the advertisement or posting that you saw. So that is the first thing you have to do, okay? Tell them where did you see the advertisement, and then explain what you're writing, okay? The third thing you have to do is to introduce yourself. You have to explain who you are and where you're from and your plans for the future, okay? So those two go together. And finally, you also have to explain any skills and abilities you have which would make you suitable for the job, okay? So that's like the order, okay? Now, let's go back to page 153. And first of all, on exercise 7, exercise 8, it says to work in pairs and read the application on page 153. Which order did the writer use? So that's why I have exercise number 7 here. Which is the order that the writer uses? First of all, they have E, right? Which is explain what you're writing. Then refer to the ad you saw. Then we have C, describe who you are and where you're from. 4, we have D, outline your plans for the future. And finally, the last thing that we do is to list the skills and abilities you have. Okay, so guys, remember E and A, they can be in the same paragraph, they can go together. It doesn't matter that much if one goes before the other. Okay, which is explain what you're writing and also to refer to the ad you saw. Okay, so that's what we're doing today. Okay, we're writing a letter of application. So moving on to exercise number 9, it says to complete the sentences by adding the correct prepositions from the letter. Okay, so if you need to, you can go back to the letter to see what prepositions, okay? So it says, I'm writing blank response to your recent letter. So what do you think is the correct preposition that needs to be here? I'm writing to response? No, right? I'm writing in response, right, to your recent letter. So guys, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to go ahead and complete this, and then we'll check it together, okay? So please pause the video while you work, and once you finish, play it again. Okay, number 2 says, please send me more information about or on the post. About the post, right? Number 3, please send details how to apply. Of how to apply, right? Number 4, I'm currently blank my last year of high school. I'm currently in my last year of high school. Blank terms of my experience, I have a part-time job. So in terms of my experience, I have a part-time job. Blank addition, that is a common expression that we use in class. So in addition, I have experience working with animals. And number 7, I feel that I would be suitable for the post, right? I look forward. This is an expression we use all the time. So I look forward to hearing from you soon. Okay, so guys, these are some of the expressions that we can use in a letter and that were used previously, okay? So have them in mind. Great. Now, so let's get to the good part. It says, look at the advertisement and list the skills and abilities that you have that make you a suitable volunteer, okay? So it says, spend your summer in Mexico helping to preserve some of the world's most endangered species. by participating in wildlife volunteer projects. Depending on where you're placed, you may care for animals, conduct research, or help with community programs. You may also be asked to teach basic English to local guides. You may find yourself working with dolphins or even jaguars. Contact us for details and to let us know why you'd be a great fit for our team. Okay, so guys, what you're going to do, you're going to write a letter of application in response to this advertisement. Okay, this is something quite easy. So what you're going to do in your notebooks, you're going to write a text, a letter of application from 120 to 160 words. Okay, that's what you're doing. Okay, remember, it's spending your summer holidays in Mexico to help preserve some of the most endangered species. You're going to teach English to some of the local guides. Okay, great. So guys, this has to be in your notebook and we're going to check it as soon as we go back to school. Okay, so in your notebooks. Okay, get started, please. Good. Okay, so before we finish today's class, your homework, guys, is workbook page 107 and 108. So as you can see on page 107, it's about the speaking part that we went over in our student book, and page 108, it's about a letter of application, the structure, and some examples, okay? So remember, it's page 107 and 108. Please do it before you watch the next video, okay? Great. So this is the end of today's class, guys. It was nice to be with you. And please remember to finish your writing assignment, a letter of application. It is extremely important. We're going to check it next class, okay? Guys, please stay home and stay safe. See you next class. Goodbye.